March production numbers are in for three of our favorite miners on this page. NVIDIA did exactly what we thought it would do yesterday. It did it in one day, which was pretty exciting. Let's talk about an update on TMF as well as the Russell 2000 with IWM at the very end of the video today. Let's get into the production numbers. So first of all, here we have Marathon Digital. We're looking at their press release for the March production numbers from last month. Something exciting is their treasury is now over 17,000 Bitcoin. That is equal to over $1.6 billion as of March 31st, 2024. So that's pretty exciting. Their average operational hash rate has increased by 4% month over month in March, up to 18.3 exahash, which is still very much an underperformance of the amount of exahash they have at their disposal, which is closer to 30. I think it's like 27 or 28. So this is actually still embarrassing, even though it is an improvement in their hash rate month over month. We'll talk a little bit more about that here as we look at this table. So you can see here that with Mara, they produced 894 Bitcoin last month. That is up from a year ago where they had 825. I don't know why they have a year over year right there. I'd prefer to see the month over month right now. So in February, they produced 833 Bitcoin, but in March, they did a little bit more than an increase of 7% up to 894, almost 900 Bitcoin for the entire month. So average daily production was 28.8 Bitcoin. They are collecting about 3% of the available miner rewards. So of the global supply of rewards, they're getting about 3%. That's not so bad, not bad. Okay, okay. They are getting, let's see, transaction fees as a percent of their total. Received Bitcoin is 4.5%, down from 5.1% last month. So that's an 11% decrease. But there is year over year, their transaction fees as a percent of their total collected revenue on Bitcoin is actually up 47%. That's a very exciting increase. They're showing that the value of those network fees is actually increasing year over year at quite a dramatic rate. Let's see if that continues. I'm going to keep an eye on that metric because honestly, going forward, when the rewards are significantly decreased in another few halvings here, these network fees, that's going to be what keeps these companies afloat. So that's something that will be interesting. And now, of course, I'm probably not going to hold this without selling, without trading it over years and years and years, but it'll be something interesting to keep track of over time. Okay, energized hash rate for March 2024 was 27 exahash, down 3% from February where they had 28.7%. That's the wrong way, guys. Up 142% from a year ago when they only had 11.5 exahash energized, but a year ago they were at 100% uptime on that exahash, where they were also not just energized but operating with 11.5 exahash. So, boo, that sucks. So this month we had an operating exahash of 18.3, up 4% from February and up 60% from a year ago. And that is what is going on with Mara. So we got a slight increase in the production of Bitcoin, a slight decrease in the collection of fees, a slight decrease in exahash that is energized, but a slight increase of exahash that is actually operating. Still dismal in relation to how much exahash they have energized in terms of what they are actually operating with. They really need to get a handle on that. Be more like CleanSpark. Operate with more of your miners, guys. All right. Anyways, that's what's going on with Mara. Let's take a look real quick at their chart. I know this is NVIDIA. Let me fix that. Mara, what's going on with their chart today? They're actually up 2% today after yesterday's dramatic everything. Up 2%, still in that area, hovering around this 1980 range. Right now we're at 1880, so we're $1 lower than that. We actually went all the way down to almost $18 on the dot there. I still hold my personal opinion, which is not financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever, that this area is actually probably a pretty good accumulation zone for Mara going into the halving. So I haven't started accumulating quite yet. I am looking to get back into some leap call options on Mara here in the coming days or the next week or two, depending on the price action. I want to see if we're going to potentially flash down with some of this black swan events that seem to be occurring around the globe and all this crazy news that's coming out. I want to see how it reacts over a few more days before I pull any before I make any actual decisions. Okay, let's look at Riot for March 2024. Riot, excuse me, Riot produced 425 Bitcoin, which is an increase of 2% from February and actually a decrease of almost 40% from March 2023. No wonder their stock is lagging behind their peers so dramatically. They need to get those new miners installed and energized and mining already, because that is quite the fall from last year. That is just embarrassing. Okay, average Bitcoin produced per day, 13.7, down again 40% from a year ago. Also down 5% from a month ago. So that's a bit interesting that they mined. Well, it's because there were 2 more days. That's why they mined more. Or not two, 3 more days in March than in February. That's why they mined more. So they kind of suck right now. Anyways, they did not sell any of that Bitcoin. They're holding on to all of it, building up that treasury in anticipation of those Bitcoin treasuries sending their stock price rising as Bitcoin goes skyrocketing after the halving here. So they are holding on for that. And that is one of the few things that I think Riot is getting correct and that they are doing very well with, is building up that treasury so that they can reap the benefits of having a significant Bitcoin treasury after the halving. So that's pretty cool. All right. So let's see here. Let's see, deployed hash. Right now they've got 12.4. They did not move at all since last month whatsoever. But from a year ago, they are up 18%. That is not enough. They really, really need to get those new miners and get them energized and mining. That's the only way I see Riot getting out of its slump, is if they come out with news saying that they've got their new miners, they are energized, and they are producing Bitcoin. Otherwise, I think they'll continue to stagnate and potentially fall. And the only thing really holding them up will be this treasury here very, very soon. So let's see, actually from a year ago, they are only up 12% in operating hash rate because they operate at a disappointing level. In fact, they're operating, I believe that's about 70% of the hash rate they have deployed. So they are operating at a 30% deficit to what they could be operating at. And that is, again, just absolutely embarrassing. We really need to see them we really need to see them improve on the amount of operating hash rate and Bitcoin produced. Just they need to get that hash rate up. The only way Riot does well, like exceptionally well after this halving, is if they get that hash rate up. They do have plans to increase that hash rate, get it up significantly, but they need to execute on it or their stock price will continue to suffer. See what is going on with it today. It is actually up 1.37%, not too far off from Marathon there at $10.31, a very disappointing level considering just a few days ago we were up at the $12.50, $13 range. They really, really need to get back above there, up in that area. They are below all the SMAs. They really, really need to get up past this. And I think we need to see like one or two really decisive moves taking us up and beyond this 1322 level so that we can actually see some upward move on this stock. All right, Bit Digital was the last miner I'm going to cover in terms of their March update right now. Today, these are the exciting ones that came out today. Okay, so Bit Digital in March, they produced 136.4 Bitcoin. That is a 6% increase from the excuse me again, the month before. Their active hash rate was 2.76 exahash, very, very tiny compared to Riot, but they do operate with all of it, so they're arguably operating better than Riot. Okay. So their treasury holdings of Bitcoin and Ethereum were 956.6 Bitcoin and 16,032 ETH, which they are staking and is producing them like 4 point something percent? No, 2.8%. They're the return on ETH staking not as good as Sol, I guess. Okay, anyways, moving on. I was wrong about that. It's 2.8, not 4. 2.8% staking for those 16,000 ETH, which is actually really good. They have $68.2 million worth of Bitcoin and $58.5 million worth of Ethereum, which is very good for their balance sheet. Um, See, they have cash equivalents 34.9. Okay, that's not important to me. Ethereum staking, they earned about 29 ETH from their staking. That's not bad. That's not bad considering ETH could potentially be a $10,000 asset at the end of this cycle. That's not bad if they were producing that amount of ETH every month, and it's just growing. This is the exciting part. Okay, this is the extra exciting part. The Bit Digital AI update. They, one, they started a contract with their customer to double their expected output revenue for the AI side of their business. Now, they haven't quite got that far quite yet, but their monthly income for the AI side of their business is now at $4.3 million. Remember, their original goal was $50 million in revenue a year off this AI business. And if you have 4.3 times that by 12, 51.6. They have now exceeded the necessary monthly goal of revenue from the AI side of their business to exceed their $50 million annual goal for the AI side of their business. They have not only come out and deployed these servers, they have executed on this plan to perfection, and they have done it very quickly and effectively. So that is something that I'm very excited about for Bit Digital. I do believe that they will very likely get to that $100 million a year in revenue, just like they plan to. And if they were to do that, we would be looking at an 8.33 repeating $1 million per month in revenue from the AI side of their business. I bet you they'll get up to an 8.34, 8.35, probably in the next 6 months to by the end of the year. I'm sure by the end of the year, they'll probably be making this per month, and we will be watching for that to get excited about this part of their business. I really do appreciate this now. I did not at the beginning, but I do now. I have come around to understand the importance of this thing right now. Let's take a look at their chart very quickly. These are the only three we're going to look at today. I'll do a full weekly update over the weekend, but today we're just doing these three right now. So we are up 0.83%, hanging out around 243. We're sort of in the middle of this descending channel. We are really having a hard time getting back up and over $3 right now. We are still in this handle I have drawn. I'm just waiting for this to break out and up above. We'll probably see it come out after we get some production from April after the halving, maybe even May after the halving. We'll see. Looks like there's an earnings date coming up. What's going on here? April 25th, they got an earnings date coming up. That's interesting. I'll be very interested to see what's going on with that specifically. We do have lower volume today, which is not fantastic, but we've been falling, so lower volume might not be the worst thing we've ever seen. Anyways, Bit Digital, right now we are looking at support at 226, resistance at 260. We get above 260, $3 is potential. We get below we get below 227, and we could be looking at $2 on Bit Digital. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to mention today was NVIDIA. NVIDIA did exactly what we thought it would do yesterday. Remember I was saying it would come down to 860? My target was 860 from where it was up here around 890. It came and did that in a single day. Now, that was due to some pretty outrageous news yesterday. Let's just remind everybody, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, can I not? U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said Ukraine will be a NATO member. That caused a tiny little bit of a drop. Not nearly as much as Kashkari coming out and saying that there aren't going to be any rate cuts, but we'll get into that later. We had those two big pieces of news yesterday sent us cascading down and giving us several days of loss in terms of how much percent we moved down in a single day. It was worth a few days, I'd say, worth a few days. Take a look at the moving averages. Let me get this onto 20 because I want to use 20 for this particular stock because I want to be certain this thing is coming down. So we are currently trading away from the 5-day, away from the 20-day SMA. Let's take a look here. We see a squeeze going on here. Let's take a look at the Bollinger Band. Where are we on the Bollinger Band? So we are near the bottom of the Bollinger Band, but NVIDIA is one of those stocks where it hits the top of the bottom, and as you can see on the left side of the screen here, it just kind of skates along that for a bit. We might see minor pullbacks followed by continued strength and or weakness depending on what's going on in the stock at that time. Now remember, this is technically a semiconductor stock. Semiconductors actually do pretty bad in April. April is the worst month of the entire year for semiconductors, so a bit further downside on NVIDIA going into this month, potentially coming down to fill this gap down at 823. Now we need to come down, we need to close below 860. We need to close beneath 860 in order to feel any type of confidence about coming down to 823. But that is in the cards. Now that we are trading solidly beneath the 20-day EMA, if we can close beneath this yellow line here for 2-3 days, so like we're talking Tuesday, Wednesday, if we are still beneath that yellow line, and then we get a close beneath 860, 823, very possibly could be reached by the end of this month. Now, that's not like some massive crash in NVIDIA or anything, but that is a significant move if you're holding on to this stock. Because just a moment ago, it was almost at $1,000, and now we're talking about, being nearly $200 off of that. If you've got a small account, that's not a small amount of movement. So keep that in mind. Watching that, we are watching this stock. Oh yeah, Tesla. I forgot about Tesla. I need to add Tesla on here. Tesla is up or down 0.3% today. Yesterday it went up as high as up 5%. We got a big old wick that went above the 20-day SMA, but then we came back down and closed beneath it. Today we opened up way under it, and it looks like we are probably going to trade beneath that 20-day SMA again today. So yesterday was a bit of a fake out to the upside. I am still seeing weakness on Tesla. I am expecting sometime in the next few days, maybe a week or so, to get back down and test 160 again, and we'll look for that to break that. And if it does break that 160, we are looking to go into the mid to low 50s, potentially even the high 140s on Tesla. So that's what we're looking at there. TMF, I brought this to the channel quite a while ago, and since then it has been absolutely suffering because the Fed keeps flip-flopping, changing their mind about whether or not they're going to cut rates. This will not do well until the Fed cuts rates. They need to cut those rates for TMF and any other bonds, especially long-term, to start doing well on these charts. That is exactly why we are suffering with this right now. It's because the Fed keeps coming out and saying, oh, we might cut, or they'll say things like, we're definitely going to cut no matter what. And then Kashkari will come out and say, we might not do any cuts at all. And then it comes dropping down to the floor again. I do think if we don't start getting some real solid direction from the Fed, like if they don't give us a cut in June, we could very likely see this thing tumble back down into the low 40s, maybe even the high 30s, if they do not give us the rate cut they said they were going to give us. So that is what's going on with TMF. It will continue to fall until a rate cut is looking like it is guaranteed, because I mean we thought it was going to happen back here, which is why it went up from 39 all the way up to almost 70. That's 100% return nearly. All right, nearly, not quite. I think it's like 80 something percent, whatever. I'm doing math in my head. Is a huge return in a very short amount of time. It went from in October, late October, until late December. That's a 2-month move. It went up over 80%. That's insane. In fact, I can measure it. I have a measuring tool right here. I don't need to do math. What am I doing? It was at 77.95% in 60 days when they thought that those rate cuts were guaranteed. And then they came back and said, no, we're not actually going to do it. And we got a drop down here. Now we've come down 30% off of that because of that. So we need to get clear direction on rate cuts before TMF will do well. IWM, we got smacked down on IWM yesterday. You can see talks of World War III really just was a drop in the bucket. It came out right here, and it came out until here. This box here represents Anthony Blinken's announcement that he says Ukraine will become part of NATO, and it dropped. How much did we lose? Off of that announcement, we lost about 0.44%. But then Kashkari, he came out and he said that there might not be a rate cut, and that caused like straight up pandemonium. The lack of a rate cut sent us at a total move of -2% because the IWM, just like TMF, is exceptionally sensitive to rate cuts. This will not start looking up until we start seeing more loose monetary policy. When we get out of restrictive monetary policy, we'll start doing well on the IWM. And until then, anything the Fed says that is contrary to a softening monetary policy is going to send this thing falling down and just giving us false breakout after false breakout until they give us clear direction on what is going on with those rate cuts and with our future monetary policy. It hates this indecision, and you can see that indecision went from, when Powell was saying, yeah, we're definitely going to have rate cuts, even if employment is high. We see us come climbing up out of the ashes here from 203 all the way up to, where did we end up coming? Actually, it was back here. We went from the gap up here to like 206 to 212 almost, off of J Powell just saying that employment numbers will not affect their decision to cut rates. And then Kashkari came out and said, we might not do any rate cuts. And it drops 2% in a single afternoon. So it is very sensitive to murky decision making by the Fed. And until they give us some clear direction, we're going to see false breakouts and big breakdowns and all kinds of up, down, all around on this thing until they give us some clear direction. So that's all I've got for you today. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a profitable day.